Hello, today is Wednesday, May 27th, 2015, and I am your host, Sue Brown, and welcome to info2rail, your freight train to modern media. How y'all doing today? Well, I want to start out by telling you, like I usually do, about our weather here in New York. It is a beautiful day, 86 degrees, and absolutely gorgeous. Thank God for that. We needed this. It was a rough winter, and it's been a kind of a rough transformation into spring, and now we're into summer, and it is absolutely beautiful. I want to welcome you all to our show, and we have a great show in store for you today. We're very fortunate to have public speaker, activist, meditation practitioner, and teacher Felix Clairvoyant with us today. First, we're going to take a glimpse into the missing persons files. We have Tiffany Stelling, age 21, was last seen in Burley, Idaho, near 1750 Oakley Avenue on May 16, 2015. She is 5'4", 130 pounds, has brown hair in braids with blonde highlights, green eyes, wears glasses, has a tattoo of a half heart with writing on the back of her forearm. And that's shown in the pictures that I will be putting up on the site. And another one of baby footprints and writing on her back. Her eyebrow, lip, and ears are pierced. She was last seen wearing a black arrow hoodie with zipper pockets, dark blue jeans, white tennis shoes with pink laces. She did not show up to work this past week, and her phone has been turned off. On May 23rd, a friend had a hunch to search a remote section of Snake River, what locals refer to as the tree, and that's where a pair of women's jeans and some socks were located. No word yet if these items had belonged to Tiffany's disappearance. That is terrible, and I pray to God that they were not hers, and I pray to God that we bring her home. Anybody with any information, please call your local 911. The other one we have is a mother missing from Billings, Montana, since March 16th, 2012. Please help find Jamie Grossman. Jamie, age 25, a mother of two little girls, has been missing from Billings, Montana area since March 2012. According to her family, she was last seen at a birthday party in Lockwood. When the other guests woke up, she was gone. She is 5'6", weighs 130 pounds, has strawberry blonde hair and blue eyes. If you have any information on her whereabouts, call the Billings Police Department at 406-657-8461 or the Montana Missing Persons Clearinghouse 406-444-1526. Now, I wanted to share with you guys something that really makes me happy. I know I do these missing person things all the time, and I am very excited to bring to you an update. First, I'll tell you about the situation. Her name was Kaitlyn Elizabeth Williams, age 9. She was last seen in the Pembroke, Texas on May 22nd, 2015. Kaitlyn had left home on her pink, purple, and white bicycle. Police suspect Kaitlyn was kidnapped and may be in grave or immediate danger. They have issued an arrest warrant for the girl's uncle, Jesse Nicholas Williams, age 24, and they give his description. The two were spotted twice on Saturday in Fort Worth, Texas, once in a hotel. Well, anyways, I wanted to bring you guys an update on this. This is one of the reasons I love getting these missing persons out there, and I love some of the outcomes. Not all of them are happy, and for that, I'm so sorry to the families who actually, either never have closure or you do find your child or your missing persons in a bad way. But anyways, this update, suspect shot and killed, child located alive. Police tell News 8 that Kaitlyn Williams has been found safe in Shreveport, Louisiana, according to the Benbrook Police Department. The suspect in the case, Jesse Nicholas Williams, is dead. An FBI officer was shot while taking the suspect into custody, but police say he is expected to recover. I so much want to say thank you to the people who, brought this little girl home. And, I want to truly thank God for watching over this little girl and bringing her home safely. That's why I put these out there, because if we can save one person or at least bring closure to one family, then we've done a lot. We're going to take a short break now, and when we return, we will have Felix Clairvoyant with us. Stay tuned. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back with Felix Clairvoyant. Felix has been a member of the International Raelian Movement for the past 26 years and has been a public speaker, activist, meditation practitioner, and a teacher ever since he joined the spiritual group. He is a former molecular biologist with a passion for science and technology and is a strong advocate for the population, public understanding, and demystification of science. He is also a private math tutor, and for the past 18 years has worked as a certified massage therapist and personal trainer. 3 years ago, he completed a PhD in Human Sexuality and is currently working on his first book, The Suppression of Sexuality by Medieval Religions. Felix is also a spiritual guide, yoga and Tai Chi practitioner. He loves to swim, play chess, and his greatest joy is to spread kindness, peace, and unconditional love. Hello, Felix, and welcome to info2rail, and thank you so much for being on our show.
Hi, Sue. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for agreeing to be on. Can you start out by telling our listeners what you do and how you got started in all that you do?
Well, I'm a former as far as profession, you mean?
Yep.
Well, I'm a former molecular biologist. I studied biology when I was at the university, and what brought me here to California, I studied in Canada, was work for a nonprofit cancer research institute, and from that was back in 1988. And I worked for a few years, 4 years, then I switched to a biotech, and for a total of 15 years, I worked on cancer research. I always had a fascination for the biology of the cell, how it works, and how, to understand how genes work has always been a passion, even though I no longer work in this field since '03. But I nonetheless try to keep myself abreast of any new technologies, new breakthroughs. Currently, I'm a massage therapist, personal trainer, math tutor, and I'm self-employed basically for the last 12 years. I do not believe I'll ever return to the 9-to-5, corporate world, if you will. And to me, this is, in a way, a reflection of where our society is going, because work, we've been so indoctrinated with the idea of working to make a living and sweating and working, etc. And now, as we live in the age of technology and science, with all these, high-tech, tools that we have at our disposal, it's just kind of switching our society into a world, or techno world, where work will no longer exist, and where, with the rise of robotics, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, and the fall of work, money, and diseases, soon enough, it's already started. Actually, we'll live in a world where everything will be automated, and imagine when we live in a society where work is no longer a necessity, to make a living, where you'll be able to engage in all the activities you like, that you're passionate about, without worrying about paying the bills. This is not utopia. This is not, wishful thinking or pipe dream. This is what, if for anybody who is in touch with, breakthroughs, and you don't have to be a scientist to realize that the world is changing and the quality of life is improving, our lifespan is increasing. So I'll always have this scientist within me, curious and trying to understand how things work, and always have this fascination for revolutionary medical breakthroughs. So I have more freedom, as I was saying earlier, and this enables me to do more things that I enjoy doing.
Can you tell us if you think with your studies and such in the science world, do you think that there's ever going to be a cure for cancer and those other things that they're desperately searching for?
Most definitely. I think that science, if it's used for the benefit of our community, for the benefit of people, if it's not misused or abused only by special interest groups or the military, for instance, if it's used really to create for constructive purposes, to create life rather than destructive and destroy life, then I think, and with collective efforts, because right now there's still a bit of competition, as to who's going to discover the cure. But I believe if we unite, if we put our brains together, it's possible actually that a cure might have already been out there, and it's been suppressed because we live in a capitalistic world, and profit is what everybody is after. But I think, I definitely think we're on the road to having a cure to cancer, and not just cancer, but all the diseases, with the rise of stem cell research, and our understanding of the brain, our understanding of molecular genetics with gene therapy, cloning, and eventually human cloning, then there's going to be a world of possibilities at our disposal. And rather than be afraid of any breakthroughs, I think we should embrace technologies, because, as you know, fear is a powerful force, and it's a powerful tool as well. And there's a lot of fear propaganda out there. The most important is to not be afraid of the future.
I think that if more people realize that fear is just an illusion. For me, what's a sense of fearing things that, you really can't do anything about a lot of these things that we have fear for. And I think that if we collectively, as a human race, realize that, we're fearing things that we can't change, or we're fearing things that, we spend our life in fear instead of, why aren't we collectively finding answers to these things and solutions instead of people live behind their fear?
Absolutely. Fear is a tool that has been misused to manipulate. Essentially, we have governments, we have politicians. In fact, every time there's a new breakthrough, the first thing is, okay, let's instill fear in people so that we don't advance through technology and science. And what's interesting, though, is that if we go back in history, we find that many medical breakthroughs, for instance, now seen as a blessing, were in their own time, if you will, also condemned by what I call conservative moralists. It was the case with anesthesia during surgery. People argued that it was unnatural and that it would weaken our moral abilities. Another example was the heart transplantations, where people were saying how yucky to take a living heart from one person and put it in the chest of another. And another good example is IVF, in vitro fertilization. The argument being that these test tube babies would be dehumanized and would be the subject of psychological abuse. So now we know, of course, that the IVF is a great, pro-life technology that is used for infertile couples. And when we get to really understand, the possibilities, the positive that can come out of any technology, then we start feeling a little bit reassured, and we, put our emotions on the side and our prejudice on the side, and we start appreciate the long-term benefits of any new technology. So the most important, and we were speaking about that earlier, I think, is to keep an open mind and look at the big picture, because all of us, at the end of the day, can benefit from new technologies. And it's not just human cloning or GMOs. There are other technologies that are going to revolutionize our world, and we might as well prepare for it and embrace them rather than be afraid.
Can you tell us about the Raelian movement?
Oh, yes, there are so many things to say about this organization that I came across back in 1982. Can you believe how old I am?
Yes, because I'm getting
Yeah.
there too.
Uh, so I have been exposed for the first time 33 years ago, and it never really clicked right away because at first I was always suspicious of any organized religion. I didn't want to belong to any organized religion. And then over time I started, I was studying in biology, and I never really believed in Darwinism either. I didn't think it made sense. And there are two competing theories still to this day about the genesis of life on Earth: the supernatural, mystical God who created life in 6 days with a magic wand, and then the other theory being Darwinism, that basically, our ancestors were apes, if you will, because everything started with the cell that then evolved into all the different species as we know today. And even with the science that we have today, though, I think not only do we not have any scientific evidence to prove Darwinism, but we have enough scientific evidence to disprove it, especially with molecular genetics. So then I came across this organization that really brings a third, that is the Raelian Movement, which is an international non-profit organization that is 100% pro-science. In other words, we have nothing to do with the mystical, supernatural, the divine. We embrace science, and it brings a third explanation for the genesis of life on this planet, that we essentially were seeded, all life on Earth, plants, animals, and eventually human beings, were deliberately created by an advanced race of human beings coming from another planet, who were referred to as Elohim in the original Hebrew Bible. And they came here at a time when there was no life, scientifically engineered all life, and ultimately created human beings in their image, like the Bible says. And these beings have interacted with humans for millennia, for hundreds, thousands of years. But at the time, in the different ages, if you will, these primitive people did not have any science, so they had to use primitive terms, to describe what they were seeing. So every time, you look in the Bible or any scripture about a description of a UFO, for instance, they would call it a chariots of fire, legions of angels, bright star, moving cloud, etc. In much the same way when the natives of this country first saw a locomotive and they call it an iron horse. So primitive people using primitive terms to describe what they were seeing, but today we live in the age of science. And so these beings, they contacted one representative of their civilization, who is referred to as Yahweh in the original Hebrew Bible, is a human being who met Rael in 1974, gave him a message. The encounter lasted 6 days. During these 6 days, he explained how they were responsible for creating all life scientifically, using DNA and advanced genetic engineering. And they, throughout our ages, they sent various prophets: Jesus, Buddha, Mohammed, Joseph Smith, and all the other prophets who started the major religions were contactees by the Elohim to bring a message adapted to the level of understanding at the time. And Rael now is the last of these messengers to receive a message, and since 1974, he's been essentially traveling the world to share the message. The goal is not to recruit, convince, convert, but to share the information and let people decide. And also the second goal is to build an embassy in Jerusalem, what's referred to as the third temple, where the Elohim will come physically and will bring with them all the prophets as announced by every religion to prove what they did a long time ago.
So basically, are you referring to people that we call aliens?
Yes, they're called basically extraterrestrials. I prefer extraterrestrials because I think alien has a sort of negative connotation. They're extraterrestrial human beings who were referred to as God in the Bible. it's not just one God. It's a plurality of humans who came here and scientifically engineered all life and created the original 7 races on Earth.
Okay. So basically, that's each and every religion having their own God. So basically, that's what brought all the different religions onto this earth?
That is correct, because different religions have different ways to describe the word God. At the end of the day, there's a truth in every religion, and all the religion were started by a messenger or prophet, and the prophet who started the major religion was a contactee, was contacted by the Elohim to spread that information, because all the religions basically speak about the genesis of life on Earth using a different God. Most monotheistic religions talk about a single God, but if you will, Raelianism is more connected to polytheism, several gods. So several gods referring to a civilization of human beings who came here and deliberately created life on Earth.
So is that basically what intelligent design is?
Intelligent design is exactly that. Yes, it's people coming from the sky, from another planet, using their intelligence and using their science as well to create life. And this is in a way what we are becoming as a society with science. There's a space program. We're talking about going to Mars, and at the same time on Earth we're creating life since the discovery of DNA. So we will ultimately create life on other planets. We'll travel to other planets to create life. We will become gods in the eyes of the people we will create. And if you will, it's the eternal cycle of creation that continues throughout the universe, because the extraterrestrial, the Elohim, who are 25,000 years more scientifically advanced than we are, explained that they were able to prove through their science that the universe is infinite, meaning it has no beginning, no end. And this is something that's very difficult to comprehend for us, because we're born one day and then we die, so we assume that everything around us has a finite nature. But infinity is incredibly interesting as a concept. In fact, more and more scientists now are starting to drop the Big Bang Theory and the notion that the universe is expanding, and rather embracing the possibility that there's no border, there's no boundary, that the universe has always been there and will always be there, and there's no expansion, it's just infinite. And so intelligent design in fact, intelligent design is starting to percolate in the academic system, if you will. Some schools are talking about it because more and more people, I think, are questioning Darwinism, and the God theory really does not really bring any hope, for the future.
We look out into this world right now, and people are seeing these UFOs and these extraterrestrials, and they're having all these encounters with them. Some say that they're abducted. Some say that they're just visited. Are there, in fact, what they're saying as extraterrestrials, are there, in fact, like many, many different planets out there that have life like ours, but that's different?
Yes, in an infinite universe, there are infinite possibilities in terms of types of life and number of life. Actually, there's no number because it's infinite. But in our galaxy alone, yes, the Elohim explained that their planet is in our galaxy, but not in our solar system. And to them, the Earth is like their garden. They came here to create life, so they sort of protect their garden, if you will. And sure, it's possible we may have been visited by other extraterrestrials, but in the message Rael received, they explained that they have to go through the Elohim first before they have access to the Earth. And in terms of this is why the notion of abduction does not really fit with the Raelian message, because the Elohim love us, with their children. All life on Earth was created by them. They love us. They protect us. They're 25,000 years more scientifically advanced than we are. They're peaceful. They're wise. And why would they come here and tamper with their own creation as far as abduction goes? This would be going against, our free will, if you will. And this is why they're coming. You see them fly and then go, because they respect us. They don't want to come here and be seen as invaders. Our mission is to build an embassy that will be built on a piece of land with extraterritorial immunity. In other words, no military will have access to this embassy. Only only the extraterrestrials will have access to it. And when they come, we have to kind of show them we respect and love. They're our creators. At least in the eyes of Raelianism, they're our creators. Would you invite a total stranger to come appear in your living room without an invitation? Probably not. The embassy is the invitation. It's basically telling them that we're ready to welcome them with love, respect. And that's what we're striving for as an organization. In fact, we've submitted a request to the Israeli government because the Elohim requested the embassy be built in Jerusalem, in Israel. We've requested the Israeli government to have a piece of land to build the embassy several times, and it's been denied. So now we have a team of Raelians looking into the possibility of having the embassy built in another country. It's a matter of time. It's really not a matter of if we're going to build the embassy. The question is when, because it's inevitable. To me, it's inevitable that this will happen.
I see on here that there's a bunch of books that were written, and I wondered if you could explain sensual meditation to us.
Absolutely. Sensual meditation is a technique that was given, a meditation technique that was taught to Rael by the Elohim, which has to do with how to maximize the use of our senses in order to connect the body and mind, because as I'm sure you're aware, every time that we talk about a separation or a division or a break up of the mind and the body, that's when you start having problems. So sensual meditation really teaches us to strengthen the connection between body and mind and use our senses to receive pleasure that our environment provides to us. So anything you do, let's face it, if we didn't have any senses, there wouldn't be any reason for us to exist. But our senses were put there for us to maximize the possibilities of gaining pleasure from ourselves and from our environment. And this is how you increase your awareness. This is how you increase your self-love. This is how you increase your love for all life around you. Whether plants, insects, animals, other human beings. This is how you increase your love for infinity and life elsewhere in the universe.
How does this sensual meditation work?
Well, you basically lie down. Usually there's a person guiding the meditation. You have soft music. There's no specific set time. You can just do a meditation in a minute. You can do it in 20, 30 minutes. Usually we invite people to just lie down in a relaxed position, so to sort of allow the blood flow to be unrestricted. And then it starts with a deep breathing exercise, which is important to oxygenate, our cells and our brain for a few minutes. And then we start going in this internal or inner journey, if you will, by starting to connect with all the cells in our body. And once that connection is established, we right away, right then, we increase our awareness of our own being, from the cells in the tips of our toes to the tips of our fingers to the top of our head. Suddenly we create that really strong connection, that oneness, if you will. And then the guided meditation takes us on the journey outside of us, and appreciating and connecting with all life. It's visualization, if you will. connecting with all life around, and then ultimately with all life elsewhere on other planets and in the universe. So we go in the small, if you will, the cells, and then we move on to the large, which is stars and planets. And this is why infinity does not necessarily only go towards the extremely or infinitely large, but it also goes in the other direction towards the infinitely small.
Do you have any kind of tips for us? I have a problem when it comes to meditation. I can, like, I'll put something on that's on YouTube or something, and I can, I don't know how to explain it. I get so far into it, and then I fall asleep, or I mean, is there any tips to help us to actually achieve meditation where we're getting benefits out of it?
Well, that's a very good question, and sometimes I have to say, after 26 years, I'm still trying to find ways sometimes to not fall asleep, which is to me an indication that you fall asleep usually because your body is tired. And the key to meditation, of course, the breathing is very important. Perhaps start with a breathing exercise, inhaling through the nose very deeply, filling up your lungs, and then exhaling through your mouth. Do that like for 5 minutes. And by focusing in the breathing, what it does is that it prevents you from any other external thoughts about anything else that could, distract you. Because the number one enemy when it comes to meditation is thought or thinking. And a lot of people have a hard time slowing down, the thinking process. And I myself get caught in this too. I think about what I did, what I do tomorrow, etc., etc. So if you can find a way to not think about anything and create a sort of void in your head, you start breathing, focusing, and ultimately because your brain is not used to this overdose of oxygen, it's likely you will fall asleep, right? It's because you'll get a natural high, if you will. But then with practice, like anything else, with practice you become better and you develop your own strategies as to, perhaps what you need to do if you find yourself sleeping a lot. This is what I do is start meditating in a seated position, or on a chair. Because lying down, usually it's a recipe for falling asleep most of the time. But then as you become better at doing it with the breathing and then creating the void, then you can get to the point where you avoid falling asleep, but you're still in the conscious plane, if you will, and then the meditation will work. But it takes practice too, like a lot of practice.
Well, I've tried it a lot because for me, there's I've had a lot of stress in my life recently, so it's something I try to do just so I can kind of connect with myself and, de-stress, but I guess I'm not doing things right.
Well, sometimes, it could be a mental exercise to relieve stress, meditation, but other times you may need the physical, component by doing a physical activity to get rid of that stress. So I think it goes in both components can serve as a tool, if you will, to eliminate stress. But as far as stress management techniques, meditation is definitely one of them. I do Tai Chi, that helps a lot too. I do some visualization. I chant. Chanting is also a good way to relax. Aum. I'm sure you're familiar with that. But sometimes your body just needs to do something intense, a physical activity to just relieve yourself of that stress. Ultimately, when your body is sort of gotten to a point where it needs to relax, it will make the meditation easier.
I've tried. A lot of it I think is like you said, I can't shut off. I get everything where my mind is cleared and everything's good, but then things start flooding in.
Yeah.
What about this? And I got to do this later, and I got this tomorrow, and everything
Exactly.
starts flooding in, and then I say, oh, I got to start all over again.
But then what you do is you start back with the breathing exercise, because at least you have something to do It's something you can, focus on, the breathing, which will, with time, serve as a filter or as a boundary to prevent external thoughts from coming and polluting your what it is you're trying to do.
That's true. I'm going to have to really work on that because for me, I mean, when I can actually get into it before I fall asleep, it is so relaxing and it's so nice. But I'm somebody who can't sleep at night.
But there's another thing, Sue, that, now that I think of it, it's called contemplation. You could contemplate anything, a sunset, a flower, or even light up a candle and just contemplate, just focus on the flame, for instance. Contemplation can be a very, very good tool. If you can't just shut down your thinking process, just try to focus your attention on something beautiful, something that is peaceful, because as we know, shapes and colors, influence the brain. And sometimes a soothing image that you can focus your attention on can be a good starting point.
That's definitely true. I'm going to have to try that.
Good.
Well, looking at the other books on here, can you tell us about the book Geniocracy?
Yes, Geniocracy. And by the way, all books are available online. Is it okay to say the website?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's Rael, RAEL.org. People are welcome to download any book. I would recommend you starting with the first one, Intelligent Design, which contains 3 books in one. And Intelligent Design speaks about in detail about the extraordinary encounter that Rael had in 1973. And then there are other books. Geniocracy is a system. It's a political system, if you will, that is currently in place on the LM's planet. Because as Rael explains in one portion of the book Intelligent Design, he talks about the trip that he made on the planet of the Elohim 2 years after his first encounter. That was in October 1975. And the political system on the Elohim's planet is geniocracy, where geniuses are actually the ones involved making the decisions for the people. Because currently the way our political system works, we call it democracy, but in fact what it is, it's more like mediocrity, because politicians are really not putting people in the forefront. They're not really vouching for the people. It's more like personal interest or special interest groups making wrong decisions and investing money in the wrong places. We don't need military, quite frankly. We need to invest more. You were asking earlier about whether or not we'll find a cure to cancer. If we invested, trust me, if we invested the billions of dollars that we spend on weaponries and nuclear weapons, etc., I think we'd make extraordinary strides. So the decisions that our politicians made are mediocre at best. We need politicians that will make intelligent decisions. We need to have a test that measures not only the IQ, but emotional intelligence, the EQ as well, which go hand in hand. It's important to have a high level of emotional intelligence so that we can implement the decisions that are more not only rational and beneficial, but also that have more sensibility attached to them. I mean, we all have, we live on this planet, and there's no other place we can go. So we might as well all work together and make a decision so that the world can benefit from, And so on the planet of the eternal, there are a college of geniuses, and this is what they share, and Rael shares in the book Geniocracy, where there's no more government. There's only one world government, and each sections of the world, if you will, has a college of geniuses. These geniuses are elected by the people, right? But then again, it goes back to having a certain IQ to make a vote, right? Because if you're not intelligent enough to make the right vote, then we're back to square one, and a mediocratic system as the one we currently have in place. So people have to have a certain IQ to vote. People with a certain IQ can be eligible to become electable candidates. And ultimately, if we just create this college of geniuses where there's no one man controlling or making the decisions, but rather a college of people making decisions for the benefit of humanity, I think we would be better off.
I sometimes think that if we got somebody in office here, somebody who knows what it's like um, to be hungry and know what it's like to have your electric shut off, and the people that are out here every day, waitresses and waiters and cab drivers and stuff like that, people who are out here all the time and who know what it's like and what we go through. If we had them in office, I think that the things would change so much on this earth, because we would have real people in there who really know what it's like to try to live in this world.
I absolutely agree with you. This is why there are several in our society. There are several spheres, several professions, several potential careers that people are into, and we can't know it all. But if we have a representative from each of these professions, who have obviously a better understanding of how important that profession is to them, and we started creating or building this college of people of various backgrounds, then I think we would have a better society, as you pointed out, because it's difficult for one to understand what's going on in the world if they're not in touch with the people.
Well, that's it. I think you said it right when you said that, the government we have right now is not for the people. I think that if they were for the people, we would be band together looking for solutions to why there's so many hungry people, and why there's, people can't have a roof over their heads, why there's so many homeless out there. And, we have solutions for it. And if we came together as a solution-oriented country, I think that, or actually a whole world, we need to become solution oriented in this whole world, and nobody would be left behind.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you, and it starts with us embracing science and technology, and view it in a positive light and constructive light, rather than creating all this fear propaganda. Because science, at the end of the day, will be the solution to cure cancer, to cure all the ailments that we have in our society, to sort of transition this society into a world where there's no more work, no more money, and where we can suddenly free ourselves from the shackles of the obligation to work to make a living. And by and large, what we also need to do is remove or exclude, religion from any decisions that have to do with science and technology and progress. Because every time, religion gets involved, usually religious organizations tend to be anti-science. Then we're in trouble.
Do you believe that this is something that I believe wholeheartedly, and I know I'm supposed to be neutral as a radio, host, but this is something that I believe. I believe that a lot of the cures are definitely already out there, and I think it just depends on who you are, of whether or not you get the opportunity to have that cure.
Well, from a personal standpoint, I have zero trust in the government, and I've read enough. I think I would say I'm well read in many respects, and I do agree that the cure is out there, and there is more interest in suppressing, that cure or the truth, because profit again is what runs, all the corporations. When I first came to California, I worked at the Linus Pauling Institute, and Dr. Pauling is one of the recipient of two Nobel Prizes, which is quite remarkable, if you will. But he was a fierce advocate of vitamin C, and how vitamin C can treat a lot of ailments. But vitamin C doesn't sell. You know, we have these pharmaceutical companies trying to solve our problems by making drugs, and we know that drugs in the long run always have side effects. Because the animal model is not really representative of the human model when it comes to clinical trials and testing those drugs. So vitamin C is a natural component, on the other hand, but of course, Dr. Pauling was vilified because of his stance on vitamin C by the AMA, American Medical Association. And so I agree, there's a lot out there that we don't know, and I would definitely personally go lean more towards alternative medicine than traditional medicine in many cases.
Well, we look back in the Indians and the Native Americans of our past, they seem to be, so they naturally cured these things. And, so many of their people were sick, and they had their own form of curing them naturally. And that's how I am. I think that, there's so many natural cures that are right within our reaches in our grocery stores and such that I think we're just not allowed to know.
Yeah, and I think it goes perhaps to a certain extent to the idea that extraterrestrials have come here, for as long as we can remember, and interacted with people in ancient times, if you will, and through these interactions, what I do personally believe is that these advanced scientists from another planet, these extraterrestrials, share their knowledge, because they created plants, animals, and human beings, so they know how the plants work. So it's very likely that these beings share their knowledge with natives of various continents, and that these cultures essentially saved or kept this kind of knowledge in their tradition.
We look in our Bibles. I happen to be somebody who believes wholeheartedly in God, but we look in our Bibles and we see in Revelations the end of times and how all these events are unfolding and such, and we're really it's pointing to the fact that we're looking at the end. Do you believe that?
That's a good question. I think that, well, according to the message of the Elohim, since 1945, when after the explosion of the atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, our humanity essentially entered a new era or a new age, the predicted age of Revelation. But Revelation, or the age of apocalypse, if you will, apocalypse doesn't mean end of the world. It means revelation, or the age of science, or the age of understanding. Now, what's apocalyptic is what we can do with our technology. Because after the explosion of our first atomic bomb over Hiroshima, that's when a lot of UFO sightings, if you will, were recorded near nuclear test sites. And what that tells me is that this civilization, extraterrestrial civilization, they were concerned at that point with what we could do with our technology. And obviously they're so concerned that they don't want us to blow ourselves up. Now we have the means to do so. There's not enough wisdom. There's not enough love on this earth. There's a lot of misuse of technology, and with the potential of destroying ourselves. Now, we don't want that to happen. What the Bible says is, to me, I interpret that as a possibility that it may happen. It's not inevitable, it's evitable. We can prevent that from happening if we unite, as I was saying earlier. Yes, there's a lot of correlation between apocalyptic descriptions in the Bible with what can potentially happen. I tend to be more optimistic. I see the good in people. I think ultimately we'll make it, we'll unite, and we'll build the embassy to welcome the extraterrestrial, the Elohim, back to the earth. So, because now we're in age of reason and science and understanding, the choice really is ours to decide what we want to do. The Elohim are not going to interfere. If we want to, if this is the path we choose, of self-destruction. Then, according to the Elohim message, the Raelian message, the Elohim explained that they will sort of delay this countdown long enough for them to come physically and save the righteous around the world, and then leave far enough from the earth for the rest of the madness to take place and us to blow ourselves up. So, and I'm saying they're going to come to save not just Raelians. I want to make it clear. They're going to come to save the righteous people, that is, people from all religious affiliation, people who work for peace, for love, and for intelligence in this world have a pretty darn good chance, of being saved, if this is again the path that we choose the path of self-destruction. But I'm optimistic. We will build the embassy, and the Elohim will come.
There's a book on here that's called Yes to Human Cloning.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much controversy in this world over human cloning. Can you tell us about that book and what your belief in human cloning is?
Well, there are two ways of looking at human cloning. Looking at it through the eyes of our primitive, or through the lens of our primitive science and understanding, and looking at human cloning through the lens of the Raelian message. But before engaging in that particular subject, I think it'd be important to remind people that rather than being afraid of a new technology, I think we should feel very fortunate to be living in this day and age and witness the extraordinary breakthroughs that are happening in the field of biological sciences. For the first time in our history, since we entered the age of science in 1945, we can understand the whats, the whys, and the hows of life in a way that could never have been imagined before, because science, the way we understand it today, did not exist at the time. And so, since 45, again, after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we entered the age of science, the age of revelation, and things are happening extremely fast, Sue. So fast that it begs the question, how much of it can we really grasp and understand? Because in the past 55 years alone, or 60, we've witnessed the discovery of atomic energies, the discovery of DNA, telecommunication satellites, astronauts were sent to the moon, and we have had recombinant DNA technology, the first test tube baby, the Human Genome Project, cloning of a sheep, as you probably remember, back in 1997.
Yep.
And now human cloning, something, by the way, that Maitreya Rael predicted would happen some 40 years ago. In fact, shortly after Dolly the sheep was cloned, Rael founded the first human cloning company in the world called CloneAid. And we were the first to clone a human being. So there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of misconceptions. In the eyes of our science today, human cloning is I view it as a kind of a fun thing to do. We've started, with cloning insects, animals. But human cloning is an interesting thing, because not only from the standpoint of medical science as far as growing organs, for people who need a specific organ and ensure that there won't be any tissue rejection, then you can use a cell from that person who has the disease, if you will, or who has a dysfunctional organ. And then using that person's genetic code, you can clone a new organ and then implant that organ or transplant that organ without the risk of tissue rejection. So that's kind of interesting. But through the lens of the Relyon message, human cloning offers the possibility of living eternally, and that's really what's fascinating. And how is that going to happen? Well, the Elohim explained to us that they are able to live on average 1,000 years, and then after 1,000 years has gone, they can clone themselves using a cell from their body, and then basically which contains all their memory, personality, characteristics, experiences, and all they do is reclone themselves into a new body, a younger body that can then live up to 1,000 years, and the process goes on and on. So that's how you acquire eternal life, if you will. Now, the other component that's really interesting attached to this technology is the notion of accelerated growth process, because if we were able to get to that, before we would be able to get to that technology, what happens today is we still need a surrogate mother to go through the 9-month gestation period and then give birth to the new clone, if you will. But with the Elohim's technology of accelerated growth process, the new clone grows into adulthood in the matter of minutes. So that's why they call it accelerated growth process. So we haven't reached that technology, but to me, when it comes to eternal life, it makes more sense to not start anew when you're recloned to your new body, but to have all your personality, memory, and characteristics transferred into the new clone so that you can continue to accumulate knowledge, if you will.
I think the biggest controversy that I've heard in the cloning, when it comes to the cloning, is the fact that these clones don't, we're made with a soul that makes us who we are. I mean, our bodies are throwaway, but our souls live forever. And this is a controversy that I've heard a lot of years of my life since cloning has been discussed, is, when you clone this new, life, it doesn't have the soul that it takes to, feel and think and actually, exist as we do with our, because humans, we have a soul that makes us who we are. So I think that's the biggest controversy I've ever heard in the whole thing, is the fact that these cloned human beings don't have a soul that makes them really human.
Well, I think it would have to depend on what the person's definition of soul is. As a Relyon, we're etymologists. That means we define words through their original meaning. And the word soul comes from the Latin anima, which means that which animates. It's what animates you. Now, as much as primitive superstitious people used to believe that after you die, your body, your energy, your soul goes to heaven, with today's understanding of science, we don't have any scientific evidence to prove that after you die, your soul goes to heaven, because where is heaven? We don't know. What is heaven? We don't know. What we do know is that after you die, your body weighs a few ounces less. That's due to that expanded energy. But because the universe is infinite, as I've explained earlier, there would be no specific place for that energy to go to, so it would just dissipate with the surrounding energies. Now, to go back to the word anima, or what animates us, people call it soul, we call it genetic code, we call it DNA. The DNA is really the blueprint in every cell in our body. Without DNA, there would be no life. In fact, DNA has been dubbed the molecule of life. This is what animates us, obviously. And this is what we refer to as a soul in the Relyon terms, if you will. So the DNA, again, as part of the cloning process, the DNA is taken from one cell and then transferred into a new body. So if the DNA is transferred into a new body, evidently the soul is transferred. So for us, what animates us is our genetic code, and this is the molecule of life. This is what is commonly referred to as soul.
Okay, well that makes a lot more sense.
Thank you.
There's another book on here called Maitreya.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us what that book is about?
Well, that's one of my favorites. I mean, I love all of Rael's books. This one is a collection of excerpts from the teachings that Rael has given us over the last 40 years, and it talks about different aspects of one's life, if you will. It's it addresses the notion of love. It addresses the notion of happiness. It addresses the notion of spirituality, even contemplation. I was telling you earlier. So all these, it talks about science. It talks about the myth of perfection, loving relationships, non-violence. So it's really full of extraordinary information. I would highly recommend people have a reading on this book. It's an eye opener. It's a mind opener, and I think it's a good way to have an idea of how powerful the teachings of Maitreya Rael can be.
All this stuff is to a lot of our listeners, all this stuff is new, and for me, it's about having an open mind, and the possibilities are endless in this world of information.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, this was a great interview, and it got a lot of information out there to our listeners, and for me, I guess my message to the listeners is, we all have our beliefs and we have our set ways, but for us to have an open mind is very important, because there's so many people in so many different walks of life. And that's one thing I like about, what you talked about today, the fact that there's Yeshua, and there, you include all the different religious gods involved.
So most definitely, I think the open-mindedness is a key point, Sue. The other thing I would say is to not be afraid of science, not to fear new technologies, because science, once again, can be the solution to a lot of our ailments, a lot of our problems: pollution, hunger, diseases. And rather than be afraid, I think people should just have an open mind, as you pointed out, read about it, not listen to what the media or the politicians or governments are telling us, and just embrace it and be ready for the transformational process that this humanity is undergoing. Because Rael also launched the concept of paradigm, and how, through the use of it's paradigm.org, how through the use of technologies we can heavenize this planet, if you will, or turn this planet into a heaven by using technologies constructively, positively, to save lives, to prolong life, and that everyone can benefit at the end of the day. So there's a world of possibilities that awaits us. All we have to do is keep the mind open, not be afraid, and just get ready for a planet where everybody is gonna live in harmony. There will be peace on earth, and love will prevail.
Boy, that would be a very nice place to be.
Yeah, exactly. And when we talked earlier about eternal life, a lot of people are afraid of living eternally. Of course, I wouldn't live on this planet. I wouldn't want to be eternal on this planet, quite frankly. But if we turn this planet into a heaven, then suddenly the minds change. Everybody said, if we make life more enjoyable, pleasurable through the use of these technologies, I bet you anything, everybody is going to change their mind and want to become eternal in such a beautiful, harmonious, and paradise-like environment. I
agree with that. I think our problems need to be addressed. We're we're constantly at war with one another. There's no peace.
Hmm.
And there's constantly the greed and the evil and stuff. To me, I guess I'm just a different person. Sometimes I don't think I belong in this day and age because, because I'm the way I am. I'm a very giving, open, loving person, and I can't stand to see anybody else suffer. And I look around in this world and it makes me crazy. There's constantly people hungry and people homeless, and I mean, what are we doing? It doesn't have to be this way. We can all live in harmony. We can all take care of one another. If we all took care of each other, nobody would be left out.
That's very true. A very good point. And Maitreya once said, there is so much negativity, so much to be depressed about in this world, and there's enough to make you depressed when you look at all these injustice, disparity, inequalities, the way we treat one another. But the flip side of this is that we should not focus on all the negative. There is positive, and we have to channel our thoughts and our energies in the positive, because we need all the strength we can muster in order to develop that strength that will enable us to remove ourselves from all this negativity. That's what's important. I think we have the choice to decide where we want to focus our energies on, what we want to focus our energies on. And if we focus on the positive, then a lot of beautiful things can happen.
I agree. I think that whatever we project into this world is what we get back. I mean, I'm a firm believer of that. When we put out positive energy, then that energy, will come back to us. But the people that are constantly putting out negative energy, and then they sit and wonder why their life is so bad and why everything negative has to happen to them.
That's very good. That's a good point. And that reminds me again of another thing that Maitreya Rael launched. That's the 1 minute meditation for peace, where members from all over the world gather on a weekly basis at any location in a park or on the street, and they just meditate 1 minute for peace and invite people to join them, because the power of the mind, the power of peace thoughts, the power of love thoughts can drastically influence not just our immediate environment, but collectively it can make a drastic difference in this world. I do believe in the power of thoughts, but you have to make sure those thoughts are constructive, positive, and again, good things will happen by doing that. And we have to invite people to open their mind to meditating, 1 minute a day for peace, and ultimately we can achieve peace that way.
I absolutely agree. And that's, for a long time in my life, I had a lot of negativity, just negative people around me. And within the last month, I think it's a choice. And I've made the choice to have, to be positive and to love, just let the love radiate and the positive radiate. And, within that time period, I learned to love me, and I learned to love my life. And, I get up every morning with a smile on my face and think about how good the day's going to be. And I think that's important. If we wake up and we're in a bad mood, we have that opportunity to change, those thoughts and make that day a good day, even though we woke up, maybe we're grumpy or whatever. For me, if I wake up that way, I have to say, okay, why am I feeling this way? Today's going to be a great day. And I think the more, some of it is retraining yourself. When you're a negative person all the time, some of it's retraining your thoughts to not see everything in the negative sense that everyone looks at things.
Oh, what you say is so beautiful, Sue. This is definitely a recipe to living a happier life. And when you talk about reprogram yourselves, this is one key component, I would say, in the seminars that Rel has been teaching for the last 40 years, what we call now the Happiness Academy, which takes place every year, and this year it will be at Joshua Tree in near Palm Springs in June. I invite actually people to check it out, because at the Happiness Academy we are given extraordinary teachings on how to become happier, obviously, how to love yourself more, how to love other people around, how to meditate, how to be in touch with your own humanity in order to better connect with humanities around you. But the decision-making process really is difficult for a lot of people, but it's a step-by-step process for some people. For other people, it's immediate. They choose to think differently or to make different choices about happiness. And the key thing in my view is to understand that happiness comes from within. So this is not something external. Nothing external can make you happy. But when you find it internally, when you pamper it, when you nurture the happiness within, because loving oneself, I'm not talking about self-love in a narcissistic way. Loving yourself contributes to increasing the inner happiness in you. And the more love you have within, the more you are happy, and the more you radiate around you, and ultimately you become contagious. But happiness, the key to happiness really is to understanding that it comes from within, and nothing external can make you happy. No house, no money, no boyfriend, no girlfriend, nothing external can make you happy except yourself. And for that, you have to discover it internally.
I am 44 years old, and it took me 44 years to learn exactly what you said. And in that journey, I've had ups and downs, and, I got stuck in the rut. How come my happiness is not important? Why is it you don't do anything to make me happy? And then I had to, I draw my strength from God. That's me as a personal, that's my personal walk, and I draw my strength from God. And, I stepped back and said, this is who I was created to be. And you know what? I can't sit around saying I don't like my nose, I don't like my legs, I don't like my toes. This is how I was made to be. So why not love who you are, because it's who you're supposed to be? And you know what? I learned the hard way. You can't not reach out to somebody else to be responsible for your happiness. And it took me so long. It's taken me 6 years.
Well, congratulations on succeeding doing that, because it's not it's not very easy to do for a lot of people. It requires it requires courage at times, but a lot of it is not knowing, and this is what is taught at the Happiness Academy. Perhaps you would be interested in coming to the Academy and learning more. It's fascinating, and a lot of what you said, essentially. You said it took you 44 years. Kudos to you for at least having reached that point. A lot of people are not aware, that it's an internal process, that nothing external can make you happy. And this is what you discover at the Happiness Academy.
It took me, in 44 years, my whole growing up life, I always wondered, I always had a very close-knit family, and everything was always peaceful and loving. And then I got a taste of the real world as I grew up and stepped out as a teenager and then as an adult. And, it was kind of blindsiding, because when you're, you see it when you're looking out at it. But then when you're standing in the middle of it, it's a whole different realm. And that's, I didn't believe that there was evil people out there. I've seen people do evil to others, but I didn't believe it was real. How could anybody hurt somebody like that? Or how could somebody be so cruel to somebody else? And I think our walks of life and in the footsteps we walk in every day, I think that if we make the choice to better each day, and then for me, it's today's going to be a great day and tomorrow's going to be better. That's how I think of things every day now.
Well, that's a great approach, because at the end of the day, the moment, the present time is what's important. We can't change the past, we can't predict the future, but we can live in the moment-to-moment basis.
Absolutely.
And enjoy every minute of it as to the fullest. And that's the key, really.
Well, I see it in a lot of people these days. It's rush, 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 and everybody's in a hurry to go to work, and everybody's, my big party and my new truck and my this and
Hmm.
that, and they're not taking time to really enjoy, you
Yeah.
know, are you enjoying the what's real? I mean, these are material possessions and they're going to go away. And I don't understand. And I'm somebody who's not materialistic at all. I don't
Hmm.
care if I have anything materialistic. As long as my children have a roof over their heads and food in their mouths, I
Hmm.
could care less about anything else. I'm not somebody who needs to go out and spend $200 on a pair of shoes. If they're $5 and they're going to cover my feet, that's fine with me. You know, that's how I am. But I look out there and this whole world is about material, material. I got to have my toys. I got to have my motorcycles. I got to have my snowmobiles. And that's okay as long as they're not what that's not your idol. That's not what
Yeah.
you base your life around. And
But this is, yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is exactly a key element that you're bringing in the conversation is the notion of having. We live in a society of having, that the importance is around having, the possession, material possessions, rather than being. You cannot have happy, you can only be happy. And when we start, having all these self-development teachings around the world that teaches how to be, to be yourself, not just to be yourself or to be happy, how to be, and then separate ourselves from the notion of having. That's when I think we will have a major transformation in our societies, because you can't take any belongings with you, to the tomb, basically. So you might as well enjoy the happiness of being rather than the there's actually no happiness in having, because it's all joy. It's an illusion to think that the material possessions is happiness. It's just joy. Happiness is a different story. It comes from being.
Absolutely, and it's taken me so long to find that, and I can honestly say I've never been happier with my life. And I think what started me out, when I started figuring all this out, I had to figure out that I had to weed the toxins out of my body first, the toxic people, the toxic situations, the things around me that were negative, and I had to start, little by little, recognizing what was toxic in my life. And,
Hmm.
and one by one, I had to weed them out. And a lot of people can't do that, or they won't do that. And, I run into it all the time. I hear it all the time. I love this guy. He treats me so bad sometimes. But on the other hand, he's good to me 5 minutes out of the year. And, but I can't live without him. And I don't know how I would be without him. And, it's like an addiction to negativity. And for a lot of people, I don't think that some of these people would know what to do with pure happiness.
That's a good point. This addiction, false illusion, is part of a conditioning process, probably, that happened or took place during the person's upbringing. Who knows? But it's hard. Bruce Lee once said, "As so long as you don't realize you're walking in the dark, you'll never find the light." And I like this quote because it totally reflects what you just said. That when you get stuck in a rut, believing that you're doing the right thing, believing that the people around you are good even if they do harm, and if you have never really experienced through true happiness, that there's always better out there for you, then you're never gonna see the light, and it's unfortunate.
Well, I've noticed that people in this world who are materialistic and stuff, they can never, nothing is ever good enough. They can't have enough. You go out and
Hmm.
you get a new car, and oh, you know what? I know this car is like 5 minutes old, but it's not good enough. I have to have a newer one or a better one. And
Hmm.
I think when we sit back and realize that, to be happy within ourselves, we're content with what we do have and who we are. And for me, I've always been content with what I have. I'm not somebody who needs to strive for a new anything. If it's a used car and it gets my kids from here to there, that is fine with me. It does not have to be this Porsche or this, I don't, for me, it's so hard. And I have a hard time connecting with people, a lot of people in this world, because I'm, to me, what difference does it make? You don't need better. What about, once you embrace and you're satisfied in what you do have, I think that's when pure happiness comes, because you're not looking for that one little bit of better. I'm not saying that people shouldn't better their lives and have a good standard of life by any means. But when I think for me, freedom actually came when I learned my boundaries. And for me, I look out in the world and I hear it all the time. We're not free in this world. We got to do what we're told, and we're slaves and prisoners. And to me, what I've learned is true freedom is knowing your boundaries. And that's when you're truly free. And for me, true happiness is being content with what you have right now. And if it's negative and it's constantly consuming, people don't realize what negativity does to the people around them. Negativity, when you are just a negative person and you're constantly negative, the people around you, it can bring them down to your level of negativity, and you can take a perfectly happy person and just drown them in it.
Yeah, exactly. This is why it's so important to be selective in who you choose in your life, because people are like food. You can get too much of a good thing, too much of a bad thing, intoxicate your body, pollute your body. The same with people. And the brain is such a fragile organ. You got to find ways to protect it as much as you can, especially from toxic people. But I was, listening to you is wonderful. Are you sure you're not Raelian, by the way?
No.
No, I say this because one does not become Raelian. One realizes that one is already Raelian, because the way you think, the way you formulate things, the way you live your life is very much the same as the way I live my life. So we speak the same language. So this is wonderful.
I'll tell you, I wasn't always like this, and it took me, like I said, a lot of years to figure it out. I drowned in everybody else's negativity. I drowned in everybody else's problems. I drowned in, I'm somebody who I can feel when somebody else is hurting. I feel their pain, just as much as they do. And I'm not somebody who will ever claim to walk in somebody else's footsteps, but I can feel it as if it's my own pain. And I had to learn throughout my life that I have to, that's a good thing sometimes, to help somebody through something. It's good to feel what they're feeling so that you can help them through it. But I had to learn that there's a boundary where you can't get too wrapped up in somebody else's hurt and stuff, because it drains you so emotionally, and I can't tell you how much my life is transformed. I love every day of my life now, because I don't know how much of my life I'm going to have. I lost my dad in October, and you know what? That was very awakening. I thought I was going to have my dad forever. Not really. I know that people pass. But, he had cancer, and it was thrust upon him quickly in February. You have cancer, you have 6 months to live, get your affairs in order. And I'm like, the first thing I wanted to say to that doctor was, who do you think you are? You do not tell somebody how long they have to live. And, for my dad, at first, it was a normal process, my life is over, I'm dying. And I said, I don't see you dead. I see you standing here right now. And today is a day that you're living. So, and it took me, the tough love on my dad to say, I don't see a toe tag on you. I don't see you in a morgue anywhere. I see you standing in front of me today. And you know what? If you go tomorrow, then that's tomorrow. That's not today. So why don't you live today and be happy that you're, enjoy your family, enjoy what you have right now.
Because that's and Sue, this also speaks to the importance of giving 100% of yourself to those you love in the moment. Not wait, but do it while you can, while they're alive. Because what happens is a lot of people, when they mourn those they lost, what that tells me is that they regret not having told them, I love you enough, or not having really given 100 or 1,000% of themselves to the persons they loved before they passed on. So that's again, goes back to what we were saying earlier, to really fully enjoy the moment and give 100% of your love to those you love while they're alive.
Absolutely.
So this way you minimize or you eliminate any possibility of having any misgivings, regrets. My parents, both of them, passed on. I have zero regrets because I gave them my all every time I was with them.
Well, I know that there's times, my dad was an easygoing, laid-back person who just, don't sweat the small stuff. He was always, that was his famous quote, don't sweat the small stuff. You know what? There's bigger things in this world to worry about. Don't worry about the stupid little things. And I was brought up that way in a very loving family. And, he taught me to, it's not the job you have or the money you bring in or the car you drive. It's the person that you are. It doesn't matter if you live in a cardboard box. I'm not going to love you less or treat you less than a human being, because you live where you live or how you live. It's who you are and it's how you treat others. And that's so important. And in this world, I don't think that people realize, and I'm guilty of that myself in some respects, sometimes it's hard to put your mind in reality. Sometimes for me, I've always lived in unreality and that is so hard. But to look around you and realize that every word that comes out of your mouth to the people that you say them to has a big effect on words are damaging, words are hurting, and you can't take them back. A word said is a word said, and you can't go back and change or take that word back. And I think that for all of us out there, we need to realize and think before we speak to people. We can say anything out of anger, but you better believe that the person you said it to felt that word in a very real way and is still going to feel that word when you're sorry.
Most definitely. Spoken like a wise woman.
I'm very thankful and honored to have you on the show. I think that this is a great interview, and I'm really praying that the people out there get this message, and maybe we can start making changes within ourselves that give us the good life that we deserve, instead of believing that we don't deserve to have the good in life. We were all put on this earth to be happy, and that happiness comes within ourselves. And I really hope that this interview, changes the minds and the lives of a lot of people out there. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on here with us.
Well, first, I want to reiterate how thankful I am for the invitation and for your open-mindedness, your kindness, very, very engaging conversation, stimulating. I loved it, every minute of it. And for people wanting more information, we talked about happiness, how to find that happiness and keep it forever. The Happiness Academy is a great, great place to at least open your mind and hear about the tools that we share with people, which is has been part of Rael's teachings for years. And the website, of course, rael.org, where people can download the books for free, Intelligent Design. And if they have any more questions, I would be happy to answer them anytime. If you want, you feel free to invite me anytime on your show. I really enjoyed every moment.
Well, thank you, and I would absolutely love to have you back on here. I think that this is more of what the world needs to hear.
Thank you very much, and keep the mind open.
Oh, I definitely will. Thank you.
Have a great day, and until we meet again.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, Sue.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was a phenomenal interview, you guys. I absolutely love interviews like that. I love all my interviews. I love the walk of life to get to meet new people and, get their mindset on things and see where they come from. And I think that we're all made up of different things in this world. We all have different interests and passions that we're chasing. And, that's what open-mindedness is. And I love the fact that I'm open-minded like that. I absolutely love all the guests that come on the show and all the future guests. And you know what? If you're interested in coming on the show and you have something you want to share with us, your passion, your beliefs, anything, feel free to get a hold of us at info2rail. You can go right into or email us at info2rail@gmail.com. And, I would love to have you on the show. We're very open to guests and in different subject matter. So, this is an open invitation to anybody out there who has something you want to come on and share with us. That's all we have time for today. We post all our shows on YouTube, and if you want to know more about our guests and upcoming shows, please visit our Info2Rail webpage. Just Google Info2Rail and click on our Google Sites page. You can go from there to our YouTube page, or if you Google Info2Rail, it'll take you to our YouTube page as well. I want to thank you guys, each and every one of you, for joining us here at Info2Rail. And as I tell you every week, it's the guests and the listeners that make all this possible. And you guys are all amazing. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate each and every one of you. We hope to see you here each and every week. We have great guests, sometimes 2 or 3 a week. We're really stepping up our guest list, and I'm thankful for that. Thank you for the ones that are, have already agreed to come on the show, and thank you for the ones that will. You guys are great. May God bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you in these uncertain times. We'll see you soon.